What is up, folks? Welcome to the Onewheel Podcast. We got a sweet one today. We have the Silvas on for the first time, and alongside of me, Jack Mudd. Just got back from an epic film trip riding Onewheel GT Series. Probably the coolest Onewheel film that will be around for quite a while. Legendary riding. And we get to learn a little bit more about what it was like to do some things that have never been done on Onewheel. So stay tuned, check it out, and as always, thanks for watching.
All right, I'll just do it to show where it can be done. I went up there. Shit, this is hard. You can't fall. But yeah, she chose a hard one.
And you're like, you're questioning yourself, like, should I be doing this? Can I do it? Pretty sure I can. Pretty sure it's in me, but you failed and done it wrong so many times that you're like, all right, is the right moment? Am I going to do all of the right things in that moment?
Aaron Hooper, the director's like, we were watching a clip of Tyler when he first came down one of those faces, and he gets to the bottom and he's just ecstatic, and we're just basking in that. And then Aaron was like, it's better than drugs. That feeling's better than drugs.
How about that last trip, huh?
We're starting with the trip?
Yeah, let's start with the trip.
Just a trip of a lifetime, honestly.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was amazing. Obviously we've been on the road for a year and a half, a little over a year and a half, or something like that. You lose track of time being on the road. But having a road trip where you're caravanning with a bunch of people and you're all getting to share the same experience in different locations and stuff, it was really sick.
Yeah, and for context for the audience, the factory team plus Kyle Hansen.
Special guest.
Plus all of our content team and special guest Aaron Hooper, cinematographer extraordinaire. And
I would also say a second special guest was supposed to be Brendan Schermeyer, Floaty McFly, until he sustained an injury. So just a quick shout out. Floaty, I hope you're doing great. We miss you.
Feeling well.
We love you, Floaty. We started off in, would it be considered Southern California?
I don't know. Santa Barbara-ish?
I honestly don't know. I hadn't even looked at a map. So we were in the mountains. You could see the ocean a little bit. It was awesome. Started there. How many days did we spend there? 3 or 4?
3.
Three. And then drove to Vegas. Did an awesome demo at Wheels End Rides with Joe and Jamie, which was sick. And then I took off with Neil, and you guys continued on and met with Jack, continued on to...
There had to be one adult on the trip at all times. And we went to an undisclosed location in the desert.
Spent some time in Vegas.
Spent
too much time in Vegas?
The most backwards time in Vegas. I was going to say, as you were talking about the trip of a lifetime, Mercedes, and reflecting on it positively, Las Vegas was not the easiest time.
No.
I would say. Because we filmed everything at nighttime, and so we basically became nocturnal for 2 days, which absolutely sucked, I would say, objectively. It was terrible.
I got one night of that, and I was I'm so happy that I'm going back to Santa Cruz.
It was awful.
No.
I thought it was terrible. But
bad.
you guys were cool enough to not complain during that period.
It was pretty entertaining, watching everything that was going on and stuff. It's not you're just bored out of your mind. Sure. It was super entertaining to be kind of in the backseat and watch and help in any way that you could, whether that was holding a camera or holding onto a person, trying not to fall out of a van, Kevin.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a totally different type of trip, right? It's not the go out and ride all day, every day. It was actually I was kind of thinking of from y'all's perspective, what that experience must have been like, because it's very finding a line, shooting it. You have 3 camera people on you, and it's obviously you as riders, you're battling your own line, trying to land something. So it was what was that experience like? Kind of a different shift of riding and experience.
We've done some filming like that before, but that usually is really difficult when you have people that aren't used to that. And, you have some people just like pacing around. But it was cool. We had a small enough crew. And I think everyone there had some experience with filming. So, I think it went really well.
We definitely still snuck in a trailer too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that was
snuck off.
That was nice, is like when we were focusing on, let's say, like Neil, like you guys were scouting for other trails and stuff. So it was definitely a really good flow for the whole team, I think, to like, there was some sitting around, but like you guys went and rode and checked stuff out. At least while I was there, it was like super fun to just, you would come back and be like, oh, there's this like cool berm over here. You might want to check it out. That was super helpful as like the filmers, not really knowing the area. So it's kind of sending people off on their mini deployment vehicles.
That's what we call them.
Yeah.
So you guys haven't seen the film yet. We were just discussing this a minute ago. What is the part or moment that you are most excited to watch or relive?
I have a couple. I don't have like just one. Vegas, I think, is going to be super cool to watch, just like how it was filmed. But our undisclosed location, watching people overcome their battles there is like the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to. Like, some of us took couple dirt piles to the face. So, yeah.
I have some amazing photos of both of you guys just fully crusted, which I love. I absolutely love. Okay,
Those
awesome.
difficult moments.
Okay, so
Good.
I think there's more context that is needed for the audience. We went out for 10 plus days, filmed for 10 plus days with the factory team, plus Kyle Hansen. Jack, why did we do this? And one, like, why is it important to make films at a very high level? And like, what was the idea behind it?
Yeah. Well, I think films are important because they inspire people, and also because they show the people who we are filming do absolutely incredible and impressive stuff on Onewheels, and objectively, it is cool. It is so cool what you guys and others do on Onewheels. And I think if you're really into Onewheel, you're in the Onewheel world, of course you want to watch what the best people in these dream locations are capable of when you have the time. It's such a luxury and it's such a gift to be able to go spend that amount of time and have all the gear that you need and all the supplies and the resources, and so much energy goes just into getting there and getting set up and all that stuff. So really, like, we're in a unique position to do this, which I think is special and cool. And I love that. But if you're not really into Onewheel and you just see someone riding down your street every once in a while, and maybe they're not super good, and maybe they look a little dorky and a little slow, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, those Onewheel things, I don't know if those are for me. I don't know if that really inspires me. I'm not sure if those things are very cool. Like, we've all, I think people think that, whether
There are people that think that.
I think there's lots of people that think that. And I think that one of the really important things for us to do is showcase where can this be, what can this be, and sort of challenge that thinking. So I think, sort of twofold. That's kind of why I get excited about it, why I think it's important to do it. And then obviously too, with bringing in the most talented riders recently with the factory pro team, and then and then also coming out with this product that's pretty next level. It was just this perfect storm of, okay, let's go out there and let's go see what we can do. And sure. I think even more than 10 days would have been even better. But just in 10 days, I think folks will be pretty inspired by what we were able to do. And I look forward to doing more of that too.
Yeah, I think having the films, for me, like growing up in the board sport world, like that's what motivated me to want to continue and like have ambitions of becoming a pro skater, even though that's like it was very far beyond what was even expected. And I think having that in this space, especially with Onewheel being fairly new to the world, like kind of following those same tracks and having the new product, like thinking about some of the stuff that y'all were hitting, were there a bunch of things that you did on this trip that wouldn't have been possible without the extra power or, you know, the new board, let's just so to say?
100%. Yeah. There is some of the scouting, first of all, wouldn't have happened without like a little extra power to be able to climb the hills and stuff. But the braking power and the stabilization that the S provides that just isn't quite there with the GT. There's a section in Southern California that we did that I tried first on the GT, and I was like, oh, I really want to do this hill. It terrifies me, and I did not make it down on the GT. Let's see what we can do. But that's like a really cool, you know, downhill shoot, and it goes into a jump. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, but I'll give it a try. And first time hopped on the S and made it all the way down, no problem. Like, I mean, obviously it's a little bumpy. Like, you got to do your own work in that. But there was absolutely no, like, feeling of needing to, like, unsure for the board.
I think the braking power is almost surprising. It's a surprising element. Like, I think, of course, of the power going uphill. But a lot of what we were doing was downhill. And so that's not something that I immediately thought of, you know, as being a game-changing element. But it's the second or third time I've heard you reference that. And then also in the desert, all that stuff was basically like the big mountain snowboarding version of one-wheeling, basically. Which is pretty cool.
It definitely, like, allows you to brake later in a feature, but still, like, fully conquer it. Yeah. And with the GT, like, it wouldn't be like as much, you know, like you would still be able to brake, but you'd have more speed going into it sometimes, and it wouldn't be like as stable. Like, sure. The stabilization is huge. The stabilization's kind of, you know, what, not only the braking power, but that's what helped get me down that super bumpy hill too. So.
And on landings too, just like coming off some of the larger drops that we did, especially in the soft terrain, GT just doesn't have enough power to balance you upon landing, and GTS made a huge difference.
There was one particular, the line where you came down and then the super steep drop thing in the desert where Austin was doing it time and time again on one of the prototype S's with rail guards on it. It was like a 3-month-old prototype. It's one of the ones that we were riding way
was
back
that
when.
On purpose? Or you
No,
just
I just didn't know the
he didn't know
difference.
because it had the rail guards on it too.
Yeah.
And so it was one of the boards that basically like Ab and I and Tyler were using months and months ago when we were like shooting the early photos and whatnot. But a lot of it's funny, Neil Bennett hopped on that board and was like, oh, this one's terrible compared to the ones that I've been riding recently. And so a lot of progress, I think, happened in that time period. And so Austin was doing this incredibly challenging. For the record, I thought it was not going to be completed. Super steep drop thing, really high. How high would that be?
Probably 8-foot drop into really soft terrain.
Yeah, challenging, and did it time and time again. Wasn't landing it, and then I went to go get more goal zeros, but it sounds like you realize
I probably hit it 20 times with that board. I got it really close, and then Kyle carried my board up. He was carrying my board up over and over, so I didn't get tired, which is super helpful. But he carried it up this one time. He's like, "This isn't a GTS." Like, what are you talking about? Look at the rail guards. He's like, "No, look under the rail guards. It's green." I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, well, we should probably get a GTS. That'd probably help. And, like, yeah, I was feeling all dramatic and hucked the board off the mountain, had it roll all the way down, and grabbed another one. Right after that, I was like, oh, man, that was super dramatic. But, yeah, he brought it up after 20 tries. First try on the GTS, I laced it. So that was
pretty cool.
Dang, I can't wait to see that stuff.
I pulled up like literally right as they're like all hugging and stuff. I think that to me was one of the coolest things about being around for part of that shoot anyways, is just how excited everyone else was when someone landed something, and to watch like the teamwork of when Mercedes is in her battle against this line, you know, whoever it is helping her get back up, take her board back. These hills are huge. You know,
I think every single person helped me take my board up. I went down that thing so much. It was crazy.
And you don't want to be carrying your board up in those situations. And then when someone does land their thing, just like the hooting and the hollering, like that's just like Aaron Hooper, the director's like, we were watching a clip of Tyler when he first came down one of those faces, and he gets to the bottom and he's just ecstatic, you know, and we're just basking in that. And then Aaron was like, it's better than drugs. That feeling's better than drugs. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that from my experience, that was one of the coolest things to witness, was the camaraderie. And, you know, when somebody was trying something super difficult, it was all hands on deck to help achieve that, you know, and then move on to the next thing. And it was, whether it was helping repack the ride up to a specific rock or something, or when I was there, it was like Neil was trying this crazy log ride and Kyle was carrying his board. And it was just like that. All of that stuff is like helps, and it just builds that team. Mm-hmm. And that's like another aspect of this trip. It wasn't just a film trip. It was like really a team building opportunity.
Totally. For
everybody to just like wake up every day and be on the same page and go do stuff that has literally never been done on Onewheels.
Totally.
One of my favorite things was hoops circles. Like
Yeah.
getting y'all amped in the morning and stuff. Like
Stoke
that
circles,
was, yeah, Stoke circles. That was one of my favorite things.
I wonder if we have any footage of that. We'll see if that lands somewhere. But 100%. Yeah, I mean, I don't like waking up early, but, you know, I did for this. And so hopefully it was worth it. No.
I think it will be. Yeah.
So the both of you, you're in your vehicle and you have two of the biggest, most beautiful dogs. For all of us, there was a bit of somewhat of an adjustment because we're living on the road. But talk to us. Can you tell us briefly about your organization and just your systems for road living? You seem like you're dialed.
Yeah, I mean, it took about a year to get everything extremely dialed. For the first 8 months or so, we had a lot of our stuff just kind of like shoved underneath of the bed.
Right.
Like it was somewhat organized. But then we ended up having to get a replacement hybrid battery and found out that it wasn't good to have all of that stuff on top of the battery. So we ended up with the boxes on the back. And those help keep things super organized. 2 Onewheels fit behind both of the passenger and the driver's seat. So we can fit 4 at all times. And then 1 dog during the night. One dog sleeps up front in the passenger seat. Usually that's Mozzie. And then one is clung and cuddled to us. The awning and the top cargo box we just already had. And then the awning was a really nice addition.
And so as the new people to being on the road, how would you rate our road living? We had the RV and we had the van. Out of 10,
efficient. Yeah.
Out of 10, what would you give us?
8. Solid 8.
That's higher than I would expect. Yeah, I mean, the van did have to double as housing and the production vehicle. So it was a lot of, that's always a challenge, especially in environments that are like super dusty and just dealing with the opening. Cold. Yeah. Like that thing doesn't keep anything warm at all. So, but make it work.
Aside from not getting enough water at the end, I think we would have been at 8.5.
8.5.
It was pretty, you guys had it pretty dialed, I think.
Did all right.
Yeah. The rooftop tent.
Yep.
That was a pretty solid addition.
Yeah. Shout out to Ted for that. Thank you, Ted.
Sponsor Ted Rosser.
Yeah. Austin, we didn't get from you your moment that you're most looking forward to seeing.
So there was a line that I did basically last minute. We were just scouting new ridge lines. Had no idea what to expect. I think I climbed up it on a GT or something, did one practice run. And then, like, as I was coming up this line, I'm like, oh, this is impossible. Like, I just kept going. The whole time I just wanted to turn around and give up. And it just got crazier and crazier the further up I got. And I'm like, all right, well, if I make it down this has to be in the film, and or has to get filmed. And then, I barely made it down. And then I was super reluctant to go back up, and they set me up with a GTS and followed me with a drone. And I knew I just had one shot because I didn't want to do it again. And I couldn't connect to the board because didn't have any cell phone service out there, and I didn't make that initial connection that you need service for. And I think the board was set to some form of climbing, elevated nose or something. I didn't have a lot of tail clearance coming down really steep terrain. And so, there's this one part where you drop it in, it's super steep, it's off camber, and there's drop-offs on both sides, super narrow. And, as soon as I start to drop in on that, I lose tail clearance, and I just have to point it and send it down the whole thing. And it was crazy. I'm surprised I stayed on the board the whole time. And I haven't seen the footage of it yet. I'm really excited to see that.
That is so fair. That line was both. I interviewed everybody, like just BTS style afterwards. Mm-hmm. And I think Bodie, Tyler, and Kyle Hansen all said, I asked them the same question, like, what's the thing you're most excited to see? And for all of them, it was Austin's. Tyler calls it the megalodon line. For those, so we're coming out with this film. It's called 113.
That was established pretty early.
Yeah.
Which is always, I know, great for the director and whoever to know.
Yeah.
But I think that was a pretty collaborative thing. Everybody just started, I know Bodie was messing with stuff. It kept getting written on the dusty van window.
Perfect.
And I thought it was great. I was like, that's a really good name.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. It's relative.
Yeah. For those who haven't seen it yet or are about to see it, Austin, can you tell me just a little bit more about what it's like to be on top of those spines in that final location. Like, just paint that picture. Because the first time I walked up one was returning Mercedes's board. And once I got up there, even just on my feet walking, my heart is anxious. I am anxious. Like, so paint that picture a little bit, because you're not downplaying what you did, but like explain it a little bit.
Actually, that was probably my favorite part of the whole trip. Was I found we were calling Old Faithful, which was this one that we took everyone up. And after finding that, I took, I think, Kyle up first, and it was the first time I've ever seen Kyle scared. I was like, oh wow, man, so it's just not just me. And then I like go over, we gotta get the 360, and like, all right, Bodie, Tyler, who's first? Like, let's get first reactions from both of you guys, and I think that those reactions will drop on the YouTube. I just gave those to Rylan, but bringing those guys up there and getting their first reactions to this exposure that, I mean, some of the crazy riding we've done in the past, we have exposure like that on one side, and it.
When you say exposure, for people that are listening,
exposure is just like drop off, significant drop off that you could send your board or yourself down.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been used to like single exposure, but to be up on these spines where you have double exposure and like a narrow single track, like, even though a lot of it is like the terrain itself is really simple, like just flowy single track, not super technical, you're just kind of like trying to relax the whole time because like it's scary.
And how high up are we talking?
I don't know. Probably at the top, it's probably a few hundred feet.
Yeah.
300-400 feet.
So what happens if you fall? Or did you at all?
Luckily, I think the only falls happened towards the bottom. There was this one section on Old Faithful that was super off camber and came right after a drop down. And pretty much all of us lost our board down there. Most of the time we stayed up top and the board just rolled down. She probably fell the most on her spine.
She picked a challenging one to tackle.
Yeah.
Very challenging. I got it once too, and it wasn't like cameras weren't rolling. I was just trying to practice it to get it. He got it on his cell phone, and then it may have come out or may not have come out on film.
I haven't seen it yet,
No.
but on the film camera, everyone, so basically Mercedes had tried this super steep line over and over and over again. And she, after a certain point, we're like, okay, let's take a break. Let's do this. Let's come back to this tomorrow. I mean, big spills. And I think you can speak to this, but you had moments where you weren't sure you wanted to keep doing it. That's always a fine line, I think, for everybody in the group, is to understand, like, when is the athlete capable of this and should be pushed, but when should you not push too, right? So anyway, and we could talk a little bit more about that because that is kind of interesting. But anyways, we decided, okay, we're going to do this later. We're going to take a break. And Bodie was doing some cool droppy thing. And so we all go over there. And then I see over here Mercedes going back up her thing while no one is watching. And I kind of was like, like the dog when it cocks his head. I'm like, oh, interesting. She's about to go down this, huh? And so I have the little film camera, but I'm like pretty far away. So I haven't seen and she nailed it. That was the time the Mercedes absolutely nailed it. And I saw it. No one else saw it except for Austin. So we'll see. I don't know if that footage turned out. I mean, it's on 8 mil.
Oh, wow. It could just be the greatest memory of all time.
Either way, it's the
Right.
greatest memory of all time.
It is on.
Well, I got
so
it on my
fun.
camera
Okay.
or my phone, and I also got her reaction after, which was pretty great.
Yeah, that reaction, the video, that's pretty cool. You should give that to her.
Describe
Yeah.
what did that feel like? Because that was like an emotionally charged moment for everybody.
Yeah, no, it was really relieving. I probably cried. I probably cried like half a dozen times on that trip. But yeah, it was really relieving because, you know, like I kind of like landed on my board one of the times, and it was like a little painful, you know, like you're not a little painful, it was painful, you know.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're questioning yourself, like, should I be doing this? Can I do it? Pretty sure I can, pretty sure it's in me, but you just, you know, you've failed and done it wrong so many times that you're like, all right, is the right moment? Am I going to do all of the right things in that moment? And then you do, and you're just like, holy crap, like, I just did it. Can I do it again, though? And I couldn't, unfortunately. I could not quite replicate that. I did revisit it when we were pretty much done filming and everything, and scouted it again and kind of like saw more of what I was doing wrong. But yeah, it's a lot of figuring out what you're doing wrong and how you can improve, and then when you actually get it, it's really relieving, and like it's better than drugs. It's better than drugs.
But I think to me, you know, it's easy to experience that failure and like sort of wear that, like, I'm not able to do this. I don't know. Like, obviously that doesn't feel good, you know, but to me, watching you all, if we're not failing in what we're doing, then we're not attempting things that are challenging enough. Right? Like,
Yeah.
This wasn't just like any old film trip. You know, this was like really like limit pushing, and it was amazing to see. And I don't view that as like failing or like a bad thing. Like, to me, that's like an amazing thing, you know, and like an important thing.
It's really
Progression and
important.
learning,
Yeah.
Totally.
It's one thing that one-wheeling has helped me learn is you're going to fail.
Yeah.
It's just how you take that and learn from it, really. That's like the important part.
Perseverance.
Life lessons on the road.
It is kind of amazing to think, like, I'm sure there are going to be a bunch of people that ask, like, oh, was certain things worth it? You know, you say, like, you fall a bunch of times, it's really painful. And then you think about, like, the mindset of somebody that's just too scared to even step on a board. And it's like, is it worth it for me even to try this because of some sort of fear or, like, whatever? And here you guys are just, like, absolutely pushing the threshold and the ceiling of what is possible and capable. And it's pretty amazing to see, like, I don't know, it's just like a huge, huge leap in my mind on what has been, I don't want to say like what's been done, because a lot of rad stuff has been done on Onewheel, but what I got to witness in that first few days at our first location, and then seeing like a little bit of what happened, especially in the desert, like, it was the first time in my mind I was like, this is the real deal. Like,
it was the real deal.
This is comparable in imagery to like a snowboarder going down a blank face. Like, it looks that legit. Mm-hmm. And like, obviously there's no doubt that it's extremely difficult and dangerous, like, but
scary
like,
feeling.
But that's what professionals do. You guys push the limits of the sport so other people can say, oh, I either want to do that or I can do that too. And that's how this whole thing grows, I think.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it got me fired up. There's moments where I'm watching the drone screen, and like, it's shot in some sort of log setting, so the colors are very like neutral. basically, like kind of white looking when you're on the sand. There's moments when I'm watching like y'all riding these spines from the drone where I'm like, if I didn't know any better, I would think it's snowboarding. Straight up. The other thing I would say too, from the location one stuff that I watched, just these like amazing tracking shots, it's the first time that one-wheel riding has looked fast. Don't take that personally, all you one-wheel riders out there. I'm one of you. But for the longest time, it's like visually, it's so funny, the juxtaposition, how things feel and how things look, right? I feel awesome when I ride one wheels. I look like trash. So no one can really speak to this.
It's also just like really difficult to capture, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
That's part
Totally.
of the challenge. And some
Also-
of like downhills and stuff like that you film that I've like seen on camera, I'm like, oh, that's just, it looks like I'm going down a baby hill.
Totally, exactly. You're like, man, it doesn't do justice to how steep it was, etc.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think it's part of how it was filmed, but also part of just the board.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just got to the point where you watch in that first part, Neil and Tyler ripping through the woods, and you're thinking, these guys are cooking,
Yeah.
which is pretty sick.
They were on jet fighters going through.
Full jet fighters.
Jet fighters going down the Autobahn had happened in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some really, really sick segments in that first thing, too.
Quick questions about some of these, I guess, I wouldn't say features, but some of these lines that you chose. Like, how important was it to dial in the right custom settings for each little challenge, so to say? Like, did that play a huge role into your success in making certain things? And kind of share more about it. Like, was it a process where you like hitting it, not making it, and going in and tweaking something, or just kind of sticking with the same thing and attempting over and over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, dialing in tire pressure and shaping was super important. Making sure we had enough nose clearance to get up the entire hill.
Which was also very impressive. I was very impressed by how you all could just zoom up the spines to get down them. It was pretty cool.
I think we were all impressed with what we could do as far as climbing.
Yeah.
Like, we wouldn't have been able to hit a lot of the lines if we had to hike up some of these mountains. And then, coming down, adjusting the roll and nose and braking aggression, dynamic response to be able to have all of that braking and to keep the nose off the ground, because you'd have these steep chutes and then they'd even out, and then, it was a little bit of a process, but I think we got it dialed in, and we used a pretty similar setting. Once we had that dialed, I think Mercedes really didn't want me to
I was so
adjust her
reluctant.
settings. She was
You mentioned that before we started recording. So what were you in, and then how did Austin?
I was in some version of flow, and I had my braking up. I had dynamic responsiveness up, and my roll was down. My tire pressure was also at like 11 or something like that on the train that we were on, which is like towards the higher end of my tire pressure. And then he was like, let me change your settings. I was like, no, like, don't mess with my settings. Like, he wanted to put it into some form of apex. And I was like, that sounds way too crazy for me. And he's like, just trust me, like, I'll take your tire pressure down a little bit. Just trust me, like, it'll be fine. And then finally, like, I probably fell like a couple more times, and I was like, all right, fine, just do it. Just do it. It'll be fine. And I tried it like I think on the third try at that setting. It was apex. What was up on it? Dynamic responsiveness and braking. Roll at all?
I don't think I adjusted roll. Yeah, it was mainly just the tire pressure and aggression and dynamic responsiveness. I don't think he gave me permission either. I think I just
Oh, I
did it after a while. He's
yeah,
like, just try
probably.
this.
He comes back and he's like, yeah, I just changed it.
Pretty sure I told you I set it to like 7 or 8 psi, and I really set it to like 3.
And
Those
why
things
why
like
is the
that.
aggression higher good advantageous in that situation?
It gives you more braking.
Yeah.
So it allowed her to. She chose this really difficult feature. I went up there. I wanted to like encourage her to just have her see it done. But I wasn't geared up or anything. I just had a helmet on, no wrist guards, no knee pads, no nothing. Like, all right, I'll just do it to show her it can be done. And I went up there. It's like, oh shit, this is hard. You can't fall. But yeah, she chose a hard one. But it was steep. It was off camber and in the hill, and it was narrow. And in the middle of this like chute that's off camber is a little turn. And so like ideally you want to be able to hit that as slow as possible so that you have the most control. And I think that was kind of intimidating her as she'd pick up too much speed going down that and kind of losing control when she was dragging her tail. So increasing the braking allowed her to do it a little bit slower. And, the terrain was super soft, so taking the tire pressure down helped maintain traction.
Smart. That's good to know. I mean, if you're going down steep stuff and you want more braking, yeah, turn the aggression up. Apex makes sense. Makes sense. No,
There's a whole world that I love about just the like talking to Neil about custom shaping or hear you guys talk about custom shaping, and it's like that is kind of part of what makes you guys at the level that you're at is understanding all the dynamics about it. And like, some people have a little bit more like brain into how it works, but like I was talking to Neil yesterday and he's describing all this stuff about custom shaping, and I'm like, dude, like there's so much that goes into this that like that's why you guys are professionals, because you understand it and how to work with that. And that's a whole nother level of dialing that in for all these different terrains and features and things like that. And like for Tyler to be able to like, oh, you got to do this instead of that, or you like go in and be like, hey, try this, it's just like, that's so cool to me.
Yeah, it's cool.
And
it's not even, it's funny to think that level of dialing wasn't possible like a few months ago. A lot has really happened recently.
A lot has happened, which is why this is our first podcast with factory team riders.
That's right.
I would love to have everybody on here soon, but yeah, we've been cranking on a bunch of things and traveling, and I mean, you guys have been testing a bunch of stuff. Every day has been kind of.
It feels like a few months, but it's actually only been like a little over a month.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I was just looking at that the other day.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Like it's
Busy
only been
month.
like a month.
Totally. Yeah, Tyler and Bodie are in Austin.
Yeah.
And as soon as S launch basically happened, we just hit the road. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on?
Well, we've established before this that my real name is John. That was Austin's big question for me.
I mean, my real name is Adam.
That is good. That's confirming.
Well, some people were like, Laser, what is that?
Oh,
I'm
right.
like, it's
That
the
doesn't make
last
sense.
name. So is Austin your real name? Mercedes.
I get asked that a lot, actually.
Really?
Apparently, yeah. It's not a common name. Happens more at the poker table.
I feel like you guys are like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith type
I
deal.
heard.
Like, you ever see that movie?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. I feel like they got that vibe going on.
And
It's
this
like, who
adds
are
to
you?
that. This adds to that intrigue, Adam. We were in Las Vegas. I heard that the Silvas are poker sharks.
More him than myself.
Does that surprise you at all that Austin's good at poker?
It doesn't surprise me at all.
Austin, are you willing to disclose? You told me how much you won last time you were in Las Vegas, and it made me double take. Is that information you're willing to disclose publicly to the world, or or not? Because that's fair
Sure.
too.
I actually just won a tournament this last weekend.
Did you really?
We were up in Reno, and I
What was the prize purse?
cashed the main event, and then I went and did a smaller tournament and won. Walked away with about $8,000.
Dang.
Yes.
Dude,
That's
screw
sick.
investing in stocks. I might just invest in Austin Silva.
But like, would you want to play Austin at poker? I would get.
I don't know how to play
decimated.
poker that well, so no.
I would get destroyed. God dang. Are you?
Just really
Well,
I would
he-
love to know more about like what does it take to be good at playing poker? What advice would you give me and Adam in that regard?
Just kind of study. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
he's got the poker face.
What's it,
Yeah,
Jonathan
that answer
Little?
was very
Yeah.
poker oriented, honestly.
So when he goes to a table, like people do kind of see him as like a young punk kid,
Mm-hmm.
and they do not want him to take his money. It's a little bit of the same thing, but a little bit of a different dynamic. Whenever they see a female go to the table too, they don't want their money taken by a female or by a young
Play
punk
against
kid.
people's biases, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's
When I was sponsored by the Float Life, I had a float hat, and in poker, to float means to basically call with the intention of bluffing on a later street, on a later betting round.
To call with the intention of bluffing, right. You don't
Yeah.
have anything, but you're staying in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely gave off that punk vibe with the float
It's
hat.
like sort of
Made
defiant.
sure I had it, yeah.
Dang,
That's wild.
he'd eat me alive.
Yeah, he would.
I have no poker face.
No, you don't. Not at all, Jack. Well, last thing I think, because I definitely plan on having you guys back on the podcast a bunch in the future. Just with this whole film and going out, like kind of Jack mentioned inspiring people through just shooting films and stuff, but like, what are you hoping that people take away from seeing the things that you guys did and that were shot? Like, why did you, like, you clearly did them for a reason. You put your bodies on the line, you put yourself in uncomfortable positions. What are you hoping people get out of that, like watching that and seeing that?
I hope to inspire people. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to watch video. I was a motocross racer, and I used to watch kind of videos like this, free ride videos of Travis Pastrana and Krusty Demons, and basically same thing. People going out to an area, finding their own lines, taking their own features, and the little bit of nightlife and camaraderie around the campfire. And I always wanted to do that, and I think it definitely led to a lot of decisions that I made throughout life to end up where I am now. And also being a factory rider, just kind of living the dream, and I hope to inspire some kids to do the same.
Heck yeah.
dreams do come true. Perseverance is what I would say. Like having the patience with yourself to fail over and over and over again, but know that it's within your realm of capabilities, and being able to fail, learn from it, and try again. Perseverance is huge.
I learned it from just watching them.
Yeah. And one final thing, I want to give a huge shout out to the guy who's actually producing this podcast right now, Kevin Suchsdorf, one of the lead cinematographers on this trip. He was right next to Hooper, the director, and
Who we don't need to give any shit. We put up
Yeah.
with enough. We don't need to give him any.
we
any
dealt with
credit.
him enough, but super proud of Kev, and just being a part of it was cool.
Me
Watching him and Hooper work together, and just kind of being the third camera guy was rad for a little bit. So proud of the whole team. It was awesome. Such a fun
Definitely.
time.
Me too. Yeah.
Proud of you,
You
Jack.
guys seem like you had a really good flow. That's really cool.
No, yeah. Everyone stepped up big time. Yeah. Full takes a village to do a cool thing like that.
It
So
really does.
Yeah.
So whether that has come out already or it will come out,
we'll link it below
Yeah.
if it's out, and if not, tune in. It's going to be out It'll be out Wednesday, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
And if this podcast is not out by then and you've already seen it, then you know how insane this is. But I'll make a bold claim. It's the coolest one-wheeling that has ever been shot in the history of one-wheeling. There's kind of no argument there.
I don't even think it's that close.
Yeah, there's no argument there with amazing riders. Share it with all your friends and family. It's gonna make waves.
Totally.
It's gonna inspire generations.
Totally. And all one-wheelers that are watching should feel proud because you're part of that.
Exactly.
You're part of that.
Yep.
It's for us all.
Yep. All right. Till next time. Thanks for watching the Onewheel Podcast. Thanks to Silvas for coming on. Thanks, Jack, for sitting alongside of me. And thank you, Kevin, for sitting there and listening to us jibber jabber.
Thanks, Kevin.
Peace, everybody.
Thanks, Kevin. Phew.